everyone, this is Lara Hammock from the Marble Jar channel, and in today's video I'll share some ideas on how to make lasting habit change and to stick to New Year's resolutions this year using Google Forms and Gmail's Boomerang. So this is the time of year when everyone is geared up for habit change. We are ready to turn over a new leaf, to straighten up and fly right, to make a fresh start. So this year we are going to behave differently than we did last year. I'm not an expert on behavior change, but I am a lifelong student, so I'm going to share a little of what I've learned and some of the tech tools that I use to support these efforts. First, smaller changes are more likely to stick. So we've all tried to do a giant system overhaul like going on the Paleo diet or exercising or meditating for an hour a day. So I don't want to say those things are doomed to fail, but it is statistically unlikely that you'll make it a full 3 weeks doing any of those things. And maybe that's actually all you need. After all, 3 weeks on a liquid diet is bound to produce some change. But if you want to make lifelong or even year-long changes, it's better to attempt small incremental changes. Instead of going whole hog paleo, try to eat more servings of fruits and veggies a day. And instead of committing to exercise or meditate every day for an hour, attempt exercising 3 days a week or meditating 10 minutes a day. Which brings me to my second tip. Make your habit change measurable. So by that I mean something that you can put into a spreadsheet or on a graph. So a goal of eating 5 fruits and vegetables a day is measurable. Just vaguely eating more fruits and vegetables is not. Be careful also not to confuse the habit that you need to change with the outcome. So wanting to lose 10 pounds is not a measurable habit change, but eating under 1,500 calories a day is. Why is it important to have measurable goals? Because in order to change ingrained habits, you will need to hold yourself accountable. So I think there are 3 components to accountability: collecting, reporting, and consequences. So just think a little bit about how a company runs. You can tell all your salespeople that you expect them to bring in $100,000 in sales this month, but you will not actually influence their behavior unless you have a way to, 1, figure out what their actual sales dollars were, that's collecting. Number 2, make that visible to others, that's reporting. And number 3, either punish them for not achieving their goals or reward them for achieving them, which is consequences. So we have to use the same components for personal behavior change as well, and this is where technology is helpful. Although you could do this with rudimentary low-tech tools also. So let's go through those components. First of all, collecting. Figure out what habit you want to change, make sure it is measurable, and write it down. So this is a basic cognitive behavioral technique. Writing things down makes us more committed. So we're going to use an example. I have written down that I want to drink 4 full glasses of water per day. So I might have a couple things that I want to change, but let's just start with this one. Now, I need to collect data on my progress towards this goal. And because it's a daily goal, it makes sense to collect that data daily. At the beginning of the year, when I'm all fired up, that should be perfectly easy. Every day, I will remember to open my spreadsheet and record how many glasses of water I had the day before. If you do this in Google Spreadsheet, you can access it from anywhere. However, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, principles require that you think ahead about how you might eventually fall off the wagon and also think of ways to prevent that from happening from the very beginning. Well, it doesn't take much imagination to see that I am going to forget to record this after it's less of a priority. So how do I continue to remember to do this every day? Here are the 3 things that I do. First, I put in a daily recurring reminder in Toodle-Do to remind myself to record this data. But because I was trying to change several habits at one time, I thought I'd make this process easier on myself by creating a Google form. So this is not really necessary, but it does streamline the data input process. I usually have a bunch of habits that I'm trying to change, so it really makes data collection easier. So go into Google Drive, choose New, then go down to More, and choose Google Forms. So you're going to name it whatever you want. So in this case, how about New Year's resolutions? And then on to the first question. So for my example habit, my question is, how many glasses of water did you drink yesterday? So now for the answer, I want to be able to put in a number, so I will choose short answer. So you can pick checkmark format if it's a yes or no question, or a drop-down format if there are a limited number of answers. So I'm also going to make this question required. Okay, so now let's check this out. Click on this button that looks like an eye to preview the form, and I think it looks good. So go ahead and put in an answer. So let's say I overachieved yesterday and drank 5 glasses. All right, so now hit submit. Now go back into Google Drive and double click on your form. And you are going to click on responses to see your answer. So we're going to want to put all of these responses into a spreadsheet. Click on this little Google Sheets icon here. We're going to create a new spreadsheet. The default name here is fine, and click Create. It will automatically open the spreadsheet for you. And here it is. So Google Forms automatically date stamps the responses, so you don't need to collect that information on your form. You can add other questions to the form, and all the responses will appear on this spreadsheet. So for example, here's my New Year's resolution form with 9 measurable things that I'm attempting to change. So in order to make things super easy for myself, I use one additional tech tool to get a daily email reminder. So this is redundant since I already have a daily reminder from ToodleDo, but I can always use more than one reminder. I use Gmail, so in order to have a recurring daily email sent to me, that's not a function that Gmail already has indigenously. So I installed a Chrome extension called Boomerang, which adds a bunch of additional functions to Gmail. In Chrome, go to the 3 dots, then More Tools, then Extensions, scroll all the way to the end, and choose Get More Extensions, and then search for Boomerang. Okay, here it is. Now click Add to Chrome, and you may need to choose your profile in order to add that. Okay, once it's added, I'm just using it to send myself recurring emails. So in order to do this, I hit Compose, as usual, to make a new email. I'm going to address it to myself. I'm going to put in some kind of a subject line and paste in either a link to my form, or I can paste in actually the embedded form, but I will say that that only works to do the embedded form if you're getting mail in Gmail and not the Mail app on the iPhone. So now hit the red button that says Send Later, and down at the bottom, select Schedule Recurring Message. So I'm going to have this one start tomorrow at 5 a.m. I want it to repeat daily and have no end date, okay, and schedule. So it thinks about it for a little while, and then it will disappear as though it has been sent, but it's really just been scheduled. So now every morning when I get up, I get an email in my inbox with a form that is ready to be filled out, collecting data on my habit change progress from the day before. Okay, that was a lot, but frankly, collecting data is 3/4 of the battle. So now what are we going to do with it? Reporting. At a minimum, you have to report to yourself about how you're doing against your goals on a regular basis. So that said, the more people that you tell, the more committed that you are likely to be to staying on top of your goals. So just even posting a graph showing your progress or a sticker chart is one way to make it visible to anyone who walks by. My brother used to give a daily report to his 8-year-old son, who was very rule-oriented and was horrified and judgmental if his dad veered off of his plan. I would suggest finding an accountability buddy, someone who you report to every day or week about your goals and your measurable progress towards that goal. So for example, you could say 5 out of 7 days last week, I achieved my goal of 4 or more glasses of water per day. So your accountability buddy does not have to share your specific goals, but it does help if they are working towards something so that they have some skin in the game. And finally, you should plan out some consequences. So these should be thought through ahead of time and should be real. And unless you are in a 12-step program, I would not expect 100% compliance. For example, for the 9 things that I'm trying to change, I reward myself if I hit 90% compliance. So that means that each week I count out how many yeses I've achieved. All of mine are yes or no's. And then I divide that by the total possible yeses for that week, and that gives me a percentage. But you could also do 6 out of 7 days, or whatever level you think is worthy of reward. Remember, the point is to achieve long-lasting habit change, so don't be too draconian or you'll just give it up altogether. So your consequences should also be placed at motivational intervals. Once a month might not be frequent enough at the beginning. If you are an adult, it may be difficult to figure out a way to reward yourself. So maybe allowing yourself to splurge on a new cookbook, or indulge yourself with a bubble bath, or take yourself out to a movie as a reward. If you are more motivated by punishment, then by all means use that. My brother, again, we have similar brains, so we have spent many hours talking about this kind of stuff, has a punishment for himself that on the days that he does not meet his goals, he has to go outside and plunge his entire arm up to the bicep into the maggot-infested compost pile. Nasty and highly motivating. Whatever it is, hold yourself to it and tell your accountability buddy about your consequences so that you are not tempted to let yourself off the hook. So this was a way longer video than I thought I'd make about this, but honestly, behavior change is one of the most mysterious and frustrating aspects about being human. It makes sense to spend some time focusing on what works and then putting a system in place to support your goals. I don't hold myself up as a shining example of success in this regard. I'm human after all. But I will say that one summer, about 5 years ago, I decided that I wanted to change 8 specific bad habits. Some were big, some were small, and I've been working on them ever since and have more than 5 years worth of daily data that I've collected. Out of those 8 things, I've totally changed 4, partially changed 2, and need to focus more on the last 2, which are diet related and therefore for me inconsistent. So that said, I'm liable to slip at any moment, so 5 years later, the daily monitoring is still important to me. I'd love to know what you think. Comments are always appreciated, and thanks for watching.